Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today we're going to take a look at the Q&A section of the Black-Liberation.Tech website. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we have the Black-Liberation.Tech website. It is available in both English and Spanish. To get to the Q&A section, I'm going to hit more and scroll down to explore. And where we have careers, I will select Q&A. All right, so let's take a look at this first post. Now, just as an FYI, this image was created by Gemini. This post is titled Our Non-Negotiables. Let's take a read. Identifying our non-negotiables early on. Question. You posed a brilliant question to your listeners. What do you need to let go of in order to move on up? And what's non-negotiable for you? As early stage learners who are eager to accept new opportunities, internships, or free resources to get our foot in the door, what are some core non-negotiables you believe young Latinas, Afro-Latinas, and Black women should always protect when entering new academic or professional spaces? All right, and so here's what I have to say about that. This is such a powerful question because when you are just starting out, opportunity can feel urgent. When you are eager to gain experience, build your resume, secure an internship, or finally get access to spaces that once felt out of reach, it can seem like you must say yes to everything. Yes to every unpaid role. Yes to every request. Yes to every environment, even when it doesn't feel right. But I want to offer you this truth early. Not every open door is meant to be walked through at the cost of yourself. There's a difference between being flexible and being erased. During my own doctoral journey, I had to learn that balance. I was willing to revise, adapt, and cut nearly 30 pages from my dissertation prospectus so the work could become clearer and stronger. That was flexibility in service of excellence. However, when I received feedback suggesting I use a more homogeneous sample rather than focusing on Latinas, Afro Latinas, and Black women, I immediately said no. Why? Because the diversity of our lived experiences in technology was the heartbeat of the research. To erase that complexity would have been to erase the purpose itself. That was non negotiable. So, for those entering new academic, digital, or professional spaces, especially those carrying ambition, responsibilities, and the hope of changing our family's future, here are some core non negotiables I believe you must protect. Protect your cultural identity and your way of seeing the world. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's definition of professionalism. Your background is not a weakness, it is wisdom. Your bilingualism, your community instincts, the way you solve problems, your storytelling, your style, your resilience, your ability to navigate multiple worlds, these are strengths. Do not let any institution convince you that your success requires you to leave your culture at the door. You are not meant to become invisible in order to belong. Number two, protect your right to ask questions and take up space. Many talented people from underestimated communities are taught to stay quiet until they know enough. I reject that notion. One of my personal mantras is I did it because I can. That means trusting your ability to learn as you go, adapt when needed, and respond to new information with courage. It also means refusing to confuse silence with competence. If you are in a difficult class, a new internship, a boardroom, or any room where you feel intimidated, remember this. Your curiosity belongs there. Your voice belongs there. Your questions belong there. Seeking clarity is not weakness, it's wisdom. Number three, protect your boundaries, privacy, and peace. We often talked about gaining access to tools, platforms, internships, mentors, and networks. But access without protection can become exploitation. You are allowed to ask, what is expected of me here? Is this opportunity respectful? Is my time being valued? Is my data being protected? Does this space nourish me or drain me? You do not owe every opportunity unlimited access to your time, energy, personal life, or emotional labor simply because it looks impressive. Free is not always free. Prestige is not always peace. Your boundaries are not barriers to success, they are how you sustain it. Number 4, protect your connection to community. As you grow, do not let ambition isolate you. My work is deeply grounded in the African philosophy Ubuntu. I am because we are. Your success is not separate from the people who poured into you, prayed for you, encouraged you, or made sacrifices so you could rise. Stay connected to your roots, share what you learn, lift as you climb. Celebrate others on the way up. Individual achievement means more when it contributes to collective healing and possibility. For those trying to move forward without losing themselves, you may need to stretch, you may need to learn new systems, you may need to grow beyond old limits, but you do not need to betray yourself to advance. Read that again. You do not need to betray yourself to advance. Liberation Lens reminder. The goal is not to enter the room. The goal is to remain whole once you get there. Reflect mode. What is one boundary, value, or part of your identity that you need to name now as a non-negotiable before your next opportunity arrives? Now, what I want to do, I want to pivot and talk about something that's related, but not quite related because it came to mind. I talked to my mentor once, and she said sometimes it's better to turn something in late than submit something that does not reflect your capabilities. So, with that note, I want to encourage you, if you find yourself at this time of year, it's the end of the school year, or perhaps you're listening to this in between midterms and finals, I want to encourage you to reach out, if possible, to your instructor, to your supervisor, and say, hey, I know that the deadline is tomorrow at 5. Is there room for me to submit it on Tuesday at noon in order to get you something that is more polished, something that is more refined, something that reflects me better? So one of your non-negotiables could be submitting work that does not reflect you in a positive light or does not reflect your best efforts. Now, at the same time, I do want to share something else that one of my supervisors shared with me. We were working on a comprehensive development plan, and she said, as we continue to review and refine that comprehensive development plan over and over and over again, that at some point you just have to stop, because you're always going to find something. You're always going to be able to tweak something. You're always going to want to one up it. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is because sometimes you have to say, okay, this is good enough. I'm going to stop here. And it's not because you couldn't do more, but it has reached a point of completion. Meaning that if you turn it in, it's going to provide whoever you're communicating with the complete idea, the complete thought, the complete plan in this case that you have for something. And sometimes you just need to stop instead of going for perfection. And so I want to give you this range of knowing that you can reach out and ask for extensions, as well as knowing when to stop, because those are boundaries that you want to think of ahead of time as you work. So if you're working and you're finding yourself in a space and there's still time left for you to reach out to your supervisor or your instructor to find out if you can get an extension, then do that. If something's a hard cutoff deadline and you know that that window, once it's closed, the entire opportunity is done, then I want to encourage you to work in a way that allows your project, your application, your plan, your paper to be at a state so that if you had to stop 3 hours before it was due, you would be at a good stopping point. So, what that might look like is that you're working forwards and backwards within that document that you plan on turning in. And I mentioned before how, in one of the previous podcast episodes, how if you're writing an application, or specifically if you're writing a paper and there are sections to that paper, you don't have to write the paper in order. I want to encourage you to write those things that come easiest first. Whatever you already have complete, whatever you have a good sense of, spend time moving through those sections quickly so that you can spend more time on the parts that you need more time on in order to get them to a good stopping point. And that might be going from your findings to your discussion, back to your literature review, back to your chapter one or the summary or the executive summary or the introduction so that you can clean it up to refine it based on what actually happened and occurred as it related to your project or what you actually plan to accomplish with your project. It might be easier to end with the summary after you've gotten all the parts in place so that you can do it in a more concise and refined manner. So, when you're setting boundaries, think about the quality of your work that you're submitting and how you can work in a way so that you can have an early stopping point that allows your work to be complete. Yes, you could add two or three little notes or three more lines or another table or another diagram. But if you can work in a way that would allow you to say, you know what, this is a good place to stop. We have enough here to submit, and the person will get the idea. And if they have questions, then they can reach out and ask those questions, and I'll be prepared to provide them with additional information when requested. And at the same time, if you find yourself in a pinch and you realized that there's something missing and you are going to need an extension in order to articulate it clearly, if possible, reach out and ask for an extension. So when we're talking about non-negotiables, not only are we talking about what is expected for you to do, but also what you're willing to turn in. With all that being said, thank you again for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Jordan. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.